let's go back to Romans. Yesterday was about the prettiest day I have seen in a long time. It was just, everything about it was just beautiful. Today looks like it might be the same way. Better enjoy it. Hopefully we don't get this bad stuff that's coming Monday. But it don't look like we're going to avoid much of it. But on the plus side, I actually have a generator this year for the next round of tornadoes. So said last year I was gonna, and so it worked out. In Romans chapter 12, we've been in this for quite some time. I don't want to grow weary of it. But every one of these verses, like we said last week, every one of them has a lesson in its own self. It's just a real applicable truth that we need every day. Today, we're in Romans chapter 12 and verse number 17 and 18. We're going to cover both of them verses today, Lord willing. So, I'm going to talk about living peaceable. Remember as a kid, be up at Grandpa's and we'd get up to leave and he'd say, well, might as well stick around, we're peaceable. I remember him saying that. And I remember Uncle Ronnie saying it too. Come by and see us, we're peaceable. And I always thought it was funny, it just sounded funny to me. But, there ain't very many people that are very peaceable anymore. It's almost a word that don't get used, peaceable, which takes a noun and turns it into something that you do. Being peaceable turns it into a verb. And so we're going to read this. Romans chapter 12, verse 17 says this: recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. Verse 18, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Now, that verse gets quoted a lot. Usually in the defense of you not being peaceable. I mean, as much as lieth within you, as much as possible, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, and it just ain't possible no more, so get the guns, boys. That's usually how that verse gets used. But I want to talk about a few things in these two verses today that we'll just examine why it needed to be said. So, it says recompense to no man evil for evil. And so what's the first thing you think about when you hear evil? Well, it's something wicked. It's something harmful and hurtful. And that's true. But it always is worth it to look up words. I don't know, it just really is. Evil is natural or moral. There's natural evil. I mean, you watch a lion or like a big cat stalk his prey. What do they go for? The littlest one that there is out there. What do they try to do? Get him away from his mother. I mean, everything about them just eating, it just seems evil, doesn't it? It is. There's all kinds of deception and just dirty dealing involved in them operating and living the way that they are. It's a natural evil. Watch a snake eat a baby bird. Eat all the baby birds. It just seems evil somehow. And it is. I mean, that wasn't the mind of God when he created any of us or those things. That wasn't in the plan at all. It's a natural evil. But then a natural evil is anything which produces pain or distress, loss or calamity, or which in any way disturbs the peace or impairs the happiness or destroys the perfection of natural beings. Evil. Moral evil is any deviation of a moral agent. That's you and I. We're a moral agent. God made us with morals. any deviation of a moral agent from the rules of conduct prescribed to him by God or by legitimate human authority, or it is any violation of the plain principles of justice and rectitude. I mean, just the common sense that men have, that conscience that's in every one of us that sees a evil situation and says, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. You know, some injustice, or, you know, you see a good man and his shop gets robbed and some crackhead steals all his tools, and that's how the man makes his living, and you just say, that's wrong. It's just wrong. Or you see some injustice in the civil system, in the courts or whatever, and justice was not meted out. That's evil. That is what evil looks like. And he's telling us here, recompense, which is, it is more than just karma, or like what goes around comes around. It is what you've earned. Recompense is justice that you earned, one way or the other, whether it's because of your evil or because of your good. And it says this, recompense to no man evil for evil. Why not? I mean, if you see something and evil is as ugly as what it is, shouldn't good people do something about it? Well, it's the exception, not the rule. You can go back through history and you can find through time in history times where good men had to do something. They had to, because evil prevailed. And I personally feel that anytime that good men have been able to stand up and do something to set straight the injustice of evil on a nation or a society, it's because God enabled them to do that. But how many wars in the last, I'll go ahead and say in the last 80 years, have you and I seen or can read about where because God enabled good, moral, just men to step up and do something, they were able to thwart the evil that they went to war against? Yet it don't happen like that anymore. Is there still evil going on? Well, it's used as a reason to go to war, but there ain't nothing being done about the evil. It's other evil men claiming to be not evil to go solve the evil problem somewhere to get all of the people on board with it, and then they go and do everything but thwart the evil. So it's not like a crusade that Christians are called to be on, to just go around making war on evil. We'll cover that next week in the next few verses there in the end of this chapter, what he says about vengeance and who it belongs to. And nothing for nothing, but it's not ours. It's as much as we'd like it to be sometimes, it's not ours. And you say, but that would be fair. Well, I understand. There's been a lot of times in my life where I have felt like I would be very vindicated to exact my wrath on people who have done me and mine unjustly. And most of the people in my social circle would have supported me, probably aided me in that vengeance because of the righteous indignation that we felt. But the Lord told us through Paul's teaching here, render to no man evil for evil. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Well, why? Why is that a thing? Why did he have to tell us, hey? Well, it says it in the next verse right there, the next script, the next line of that verse. If an eye for an eye is what most count as fair or just, then why would he tell us here not to recompense evil for evil? It's like I said there, that next sentence says, provide things honest in the sight of all men. So one of the biggest obstacles for mankind to overcome is his own dishonesty. And that's fact. Most people's, even their private problems that they have that you'll never know about is because they just can't, or they won't, or they refuse to be honest with themselves. I mean, it's something as simple and as petty, and I hate to always go there because I'm not exempt from this category, but even people about their weight or their health. You know, they'll look at themselves in the mirror when no one is in there and be like, dude, you got to do something. You're getting huge. You know, you can't walk up the steps without gasping for breath. You need to do something. Your heart's going to explode one of these days if you don't stop doing X, Y, Z. And he don't tell nobody about that, but he knows it's the truth. And then he drives through Piedmont, and he cannot resist the impulse to stop and get another double quarter pounder with extra cheese. Ask me how I know, because I did it for a long time. And you won't be honest with yourself about your inability or your unwillingness to discipline your impulse behavior, your impulse obedience. You obey your impulse. And I don't know that she was looking into this thing here a few weeks ago about what obsessive compulsive is, like what it really means. And that really is the distilled definition of it is that you're a slave to your impulse. You have no control over your obedience. Well, you won't have any control over your obedience to your impulses. And your impulses can be anything from, making sure you double knot your shoestrings every single time to washing your hands 42 times a day or turning that light switch on 7 times, or else you feel like there is something really bad going to happen if you don't do it. And and people won't be honest with themselves about a lot of things. When it comes to spiritual matters, it's even more of a weighty thing, He won't be honest with himself, with others either, or certainly not with God. And he weaves this complicated life based on the dishonesty of his own mind with himself. I mean, look, you can't lie to yourself but so long before you start believing your lies. Well, anybody looking at you can say, you need help. And they can try to help you, even from the most purest place of love or concern. And depending on how committed you are to the fantasy you've created with your lies, your own dishonesty, it will determine how much you resist them and their help. Why? Because they won't join you. Why do you think all the alphabet people want you to believe like them? Because they know that it ain't right. They know that it don't even enter into the realm of reality, okay? So they have 2 options: admit it and forsake it, or make everyone else live in their fantasy. And we all do this to a certain degree about a lot of different things in all of our lives. If you won't live in the reality and honesty, even with yourself, then you live in dishonesty, okay? And then the longer you stay there, the more you believe and commit. You double down to your fantasy. And then when other people start to grow concerned and say, listen, we've been watching this happen for a while and we love you, and you're not Batman, okay? So you can't dress like, you're a grown man. You can't dress like Batman when you go to the store. People think something's wrong. And when they won't join you you won't join them in their fantasy, they cancel you. Where do you think cancel culture came from? That's where it has its roots. When you won't join me in my fantasy and believe like me and support me in my dishonesty, then I must eliminate you from my life. Because what am I ever going to hear from you except you're wrong, you're wrong. Even your presence, your existence tells them, that's all they hear. I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Your presence condemns them. So they cancel you, they eliminate, they erase you out of their life. And we do this to things that make us feel guilty for our dishonesty with ourselves, even if it's over a bag of potato chips. you know? So, as we go through this here, you have to consider that about the dishonesty with yourself. Where do you think drama? Everybody talks about, oh, it's so dramatic. I can't stand the drama at work and blah, blah, blah. Where does it come from? People that won't be honest, so they live in a fantasy. It's how it works. Strife is provoked out of each other from a platform of dishonesty and fantasy and imagination and reacting in the real world to things that only exist in the imagination. You know, when you talk about someone who is so dramatic, what are they dramatic over? Is it real life things? I mean, it could be about a real life situation, but they're so over dramatic about it. Why? Because their perception of the reality is dishonest. They make up their own stories and they inflate the story and the situation to the point where it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose everything I got. I'm going to die. She's going to die. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to so on and so forth. When really it's just like all you got to do is just take this and put it here and take that and put it there and it solves the problem. Okay? You don't go on vacation this year and you pay the credit card off instead, and then next year you're good. Problem solved. I'm saying that's just a hypothetical example, but there are people who will literally go and get payday loans to go on vacation because instead of just managing things, they overinflate the situation or the problem into this thing that's only solvable by impulsive reactions to the situation. And they're an overreaction, and they're always the wrong reaction. Okay? You have to provide your own honesty in the circumstance, okay? I can't go to her and say, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. You're really going to have to do something about this house. It's a disaster. And she says, you know what? You're right. Seth said that this place is a disaster, and so we have to. No. I can go to her and say, this place is a disaster, and she can look around and say, no, it's not. You're just too picky. You're overreacting. If you think it's such a disaster, why don't you do something about it? Do you see how honesty doesn't transfer from person to person? I can't be honest for you without your involvement. I mean, and vice versa. I mean, there has to come a point, just like the prodigal son when he was in the hog pen, and he came to himself and said some honest things. That's when things changed for him. He said, my father's servants have more than me. And then there was a solution for it. I will arise. He didn't say, I really need to go home. I really ought to go back to Dad's. No, he said, I will. I will arise. Up out of this mess, up out of this hog pen, and go home. Go to my father. And here's some things I'm going to say to him, because they were honest things. He really felt like he was no longer worthy to be called his son. He determined all of that alone in the hog pen before he ever went home. And that was just him coming to a place of real honesty about his actions, the consequences, his circumstances, and a real pathway forward out of the circumstances. You see how the cause, effect, and solution was all wrapped up in his honesty with himself. And it never happened till he got to that point. It's that way for all of us. Okay? He said in that scripture, he says, provide things honest in the sight of all men. That's a command. That's you. You provide. Provide things. It's not my job to provide honesty for other people. I can't do that. It's your job to provide honest things about yourself to other people. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. A desire for honesty and to be honest, and then act on that desire in providing honesty to those who are around you, is the only path forward in this, okay? So it says this, recompense to no man evil for evil. Why not? Because, well, I got two things I wrote down here. Because most people won't, like from a place in the mind or in their heart, won't be honest enough with themselves to not overanalyze the actions or intentions of others into the category of evil. We've talked about how people won't be honest. They won't be honest with themselves. They won't provide honesty for those around them to assess them. I mean, if someone has a poor opinion of me, what have I provided for them to make their assessment of me as to whether I'm a good person or not? Have I provided honestly to those around me? I mean, it's my responsibility to do that. If people think ill of me, but all I've ever gave them is bad information, then it's not their fault that they've drawn a bad conclusion about me, right? And I say that about people won't be honest because it impacts this matter of returning evil for evil. I mean, if you're the one, if I feel that you have done me evil in some way, and I feel justified, therefore, to return evil to you, but I won't be honest with myself about my own evil, then will there any justness or any equity in my judgment to return evil to you? Will there be any in it? Absolutely not. My filter is messed up. My sight or my understanding of what evil is all messed up. I'm all uncalibrated when it comes to this. Why? Because I won't be honest even with my own self about my own evil or my own failures or my own places where I'm lacking. So he says, don't recompense. And that means even if they deserve it, do not recompense evil for evil to no man. Why? Because there's a really, really, really good chance that you're going to make the wrong call. Why? Because most people aren't honest in their heart. So you're going to make the wrong call. That's why he said, just leave it to me. God makes no mistakes, and he knows the heart of all man, and he's pure and holy and righteous in judgment. And so he will make the right call. He'll give them what he feels they should be their recompense. Right? Yeah. So he said, don't worry about doing it. You don't need to fool with that. And another reason is because dishonesty or fantasy, imagination, that kind of person who exists in that state is very reactionary in their response to anything. Okay? Do you understand what that means? There's someone who will, I wish I could call the names. There's certain ones of you in here that know exactly who I'm talking about. We had a family member at one point who was extremely reactionary to anything. Fires, lizards, car wrecks, storms, spiders. It didn't matter. I mean, the reactionary response that was going to come from this person was going to be over the top. Forever. Lived in complete fantasy and imagination. Has for 50 years. You know what it did? It made them crazy. And all those around them became crazy too. Because when they wouldn't call them on their dishonesty with themselves, they had to just join them. Now they're crazy too. Reactionary responses. You know, instead of looking at the situation and saying, okay, take a breath. Let's be honest. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the honesty or the dishonesty we're dealing with here and try to make an informed, rational, level-headed, adult decision. No, they just freak out and tear the paint off the walls or crash the car or whatever it is whatever the result of that reaction should be. It's just, wow, and they just lose their marbles. That's how most people respond to anything anymore. And it ain't got to be traumatic. It can just be a slight deviation from the norm. It's why the pharmaceutical companies are trillion-dollar companies, because there's a pill for everything. If you're having a hard time coping, eat this. I'm telling you, the commercials on TV for the pharmaceutical companies crack me up so bad. Because they're like, it can be something like an allergy medicine. And the disclaimer for all of the potential side effects from this medicine that's just going to make you not have to blow your nose as much. It's unbelievable. It's awful. I mean, I can't imagine taking that pill to not have to blow my nose and being okay with maybe getting all these other way more worse problems. They always have something to do with your bowels. Yeah. And who wants to have those kind of accidents? Well, no one, but take this pill. Take this pill. Take this pill. Snort this up your nose. Drink this. Stick this in your belly. Injection. People who live in dishonesty, fantasy, or in their imagination always have a very reactionary response to anything that goes wrong. So how could they possibly be just or equitous in determining not only who or what was indeed an evil, but then what the just recompense should be for that evil? Can you imagine? I mean, that'd be like having someone in the nut house in Farmington be sitting in the judge's seat when you go in there in a civil suit for somebody that, tried to burn your house down or something, or stole something from it, whatever it would be. And you've got a completely insane person sitting on the bench. Would you feel like, okay, this is going to turn out great today? Would you go into the courtroom feeling encouraged? Well, no. All hope is lost. This guy is completely insane. And he's going to get to decide what is fair and right and just. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Why? Do you even know how to recompense real evil for evil? Do I know what someone truly deserves? Well, let's just flip the script and say this. What do I deserve? Because that's what we got to do as believers. We got to look back to Christ and say, what did he do for me? Was I evil? 100%. Did I deserve anything but evil back? No. What did I get? Grace, mercy, forgiveness, long-suffering, and forbearance. And the list goes on. I still am receiving that. And you are too. And so, as a believer, should our heart be one of complete and total annihilative vengeance? Or should it be look at someone that really is pretty despicable and see someone who really needs God's mercy? I mean, is that where our mind goes to first? You look at somebody and they're just like, and I think, man, what a worthless human being. Or do you look at him and say, man, you really need to know the Lord. You have no idea what it would feel like to receive mercy from the Lord. These days, there's so many people, that, and look, I hope nobody takes offense to this, but, tattooing is one of those things that is very common in our time now. And used to be, there was places you tattooed and that was that. Now they put them on their face. And I don't understand that. The people that I have known that have them on their face, they didn't get them and then become this type of person. They felt like this type of person, and that's why they got them. And it makes them feel even more like that's the point of no return. You can't take it back. I mean, if you get something that you're ashamed of, you can cover it up unless it's right on your face. And I know people like that have found the Lord. But it's really a miracle. Because most people, when they see somebody like that, you're lost cause. And they don't see them for somebody who really, if anybody in this world needed to feel the true love and mercy and forgiveness and the grace of God, this man right here does, for sure. This girl right here, for sure. Because they don't feel it at all, and nobody else gives it to them either. And, think about yourself and the state of your soul. That's what I was. That's what, the only thing that the difference between somebody who visibly does that to their countenance and what I was on the inside is that you can just see it. Realize everybody, their soul is tattooed all over with every guilty thing or shameful thing that they ever have done. That's where everybody's soul is at. And they're conscious. And you start looking at people, and if it's done growed that big to where now it's on their actual face, man, you ought to just try and be friends with somebody like that. Just be kind to them. Yes. Don't treat them like an ex-con or a murderer or some kind of evil person. Just show them a little bit of kindness and watch what happens. It's unbelievable. Why? There ain't a person in this world cares for their soul. They do not know the love of God. How are they going to know that? By how you treat them. By how you love them or you reject. How you recompense evil to them or not. It's a real thing. We owe honesty to ourselves and to others, not just to ourselves. You remember this. If you're honest with yourself, you won't be dishonest with other people. It can't exist in the same pot. And so, but I'll tell you something. It can be feigned. You can be dishonest with yourself and dishonest with other people. You can know you're wrong and still be being dishonest with other people. But you are not both things. Think about it. If you're in your mind, you're saying, man, I am an evil person. But then you'll go up to somebody and smile and shake their hand and do, oh, bless your heart. And you're evil, okay? And you know that. So it's not like you're this dichotomy where I'm this good person, but then something overtakes me and I'm evil too. No, you're just evil, okay? There's a lot of that goes on in this world. Two-facedness, the forked tonguedness, hypocrisy. And sad to say, but where you're going to find the highest concentrations of it is in churches. It's just going to be that way. Lots of people put on a mask to come to church. And then there's something else to everyone else in their life the rest of the time. Don't be that way. Honesty. You owe it to yourself, but you also owe it to other people. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. That's what that means. Don't just be honest with yourself and you're good. No, you got to be honest with everybody. All men, it said. Not just the ones you like either. All men. Then it says, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Well, if you're being honest with yourself, and then you're providing honesty to everyone else, and you're not recompensing evil for evil to any man, it's not going to be too hard to live peaceably with all men. It says, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you. Well, if you're already doing these things, like he said in the prior verse, you're setting yourself up to where there's not going to be a circumstance hardly ever where it's not possible to live peaceably. You're not going to almost ever find the end of as much as lieth in you to be peaceable. I've seen people that the world, they call them a doormat. She just lets herself be a doormat for this guy. You've heard that phrasing, that kind of expression. And I've seen people that it's the same way, that it just seems like everybody in the world just takes advantage of them. Or you can look at it from the other side, okay? There was a man that lived out on N Highway over there, and he passed away a few months ago. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and we were talking about him. I knew the old fellow. I knew him from when I worked at the feed store. He'd been a bachelor his whole life, never married, had a beautiful little farm there. He was a horseman. He raised horses. But he took care. He just had it as his personal responsibility. He just took it upon himself for his whole life to know everybody that lived up and down in Highway there and make sure they were all okay. He wasn't a busybody. He just took care of everybody. You know, he'd come by and make sure he knew the widows that lived on the road, and he knew the people that were, struggling with this and that and the other. I mean, he always was available to help them. He lived peaceably. I've not met a single person that ever had anything to say bad about Mr. Tompkins. Why? He lived peaceably. If it were possible, as much as lieth in him, it wasn't that hard for him to be peaceable, because he wasn't evil to no one. You see what I'm trying to say? It kind of sets its own self up. Sometimes, though, if it says, if it be possible, well, the reason it says that is because there is going to be times where it's just not possible to live peaceably with some people. Does this justify a response shift in the opposite direction? Look, it says, if it be possible, and it ain't possible, so you know what we're going to do? It means war. There's going to be peace one way or the other. Well, I talked to this guy one time that was a Navy SEAL, and I've heard other ones talk about it on radio shows and different things like that. But they were talking about personal defense. You'd say, a Navy SEAL is always going to have a pistol in his pocket and the first one to run into the room with guns a-blazing. He said the number one best weapon of defense you have in personal defense is always have an exit strategy first. Meaning, he said, if you can run away. Do not engage. You want to preserve yourself. It's about self-protection. Rule number one, run away. Well, that don't make no sense, does it? Well, it does if you don't want to get shot or stabbed or get your head caved in, because a lot of times that's what's waiting right around the corner. Sometimes it ain't possible to live peaceably with someone. So what do? Go burn them out? Then there's peace? Nah, just go somewhere else. I remember being kids, and our dad and mom didn't allow us to just knock it down, drag out, fight, and just be that way with each other as siblings. But there were times where we just seemed like it was a fight day, and it was just going to happen all day long. It didn't matter what happened. And I remember them telling us, just get away from each other. Just stay away from each other. You go over there, you go over there. You ever take your kids and set them down in opposite ends of the room? That's what you're doing. You're making them get away from each other. Why? Because there's no peace to be had. You can't live peaceably. So you separate. You ever been in an argument with your wife or your husband, and it's just like you can feel it escalating, and you know that if you don't stop soon, this is going to cross a line, and then we're going to have real problems. So you just go away for half an hour. Go take a drive. Go walk around in the woods. Just get away from each other for 10 or 15 minutes. What happens most of the time? Well, your mind clears. Your reactionary response to your imagination of the situation calms down. You come back down to earth and come back to grips with reality. And a lot of times you can go back in there and say, listen, I'm sorry. I'm overreacting, this and that and the other. And you can actually have a real conversation and come to a real solution. Well, it's the same way. Just because you can't live peaceably with somebody Don't mean you won't never be able to live peaceably with them. Maybe you just don't need to be around them right now. So we'll find something else to do. There's always a way to peace, you know. What does peaceably look like? Well, it means enduring hardships sometimes. I mean, is it always fair for you to have to be the one that moves? I was talking to another guy this week too, and that's what he's telling me. He bought this piece of ground, you know, big piece of ground. It's his land now. It's his. So he put some cows on it. And he wanted to put his hay in the corner of this field that he couldn't get his mower in there to mow, and he's cutting hay. And so he put his hay there. First thing the neighbor did. By the way, the neighbor owns a bunch of cows too. He's got cows right there on the other side of the fence. Comes down. I don't want you to put your hay there. Well, why? Because skunks den up in there in the wintertime, and I don't want skunks around my house. Well, his house is way up there. Well, you know what this boy did? He said, okay. He just got his tractor and he moved his hay over there on the other side of the field. And they went back and forth over some things. But I mean, that boy didn't have to move his hay. He could have told that old man to go kick rocks. Because it was his field and it was his hay, and he could do whatever he wanted to on it. But this boy's a Christian. So you know what he did? He moved his hay. Why? Because it was possible, and it lied within him to live peaceably with this contrary neighbor. Because peace was worth more than putting his hay where he wanted it. Well, that is what it really looks like. That's what peaceably sometimes looks like. It's not really fair. But it's something you're willing to do because peace is more important. Sometimes it means avoiding places and situations to preserve peace. Sometimes it talks about what it means is fleeing, like the Bible talks about. Flee. I mean, there was times when David the king and his mighty men did work and got it done. And there was other times when they ran. They just fled. And it's going to be that way for us too. Sometimes you got to square off and face the situation, and it can be dealt with. And other times you got to flee. Is it always fair? No, of course not. No. But more important than anything is this: communication. It's just like what I talked about there. Now, this old guy that I was talking about my buddy that had the cows and the hay situation or whatever, they've done a lot of talking. And the old man's still pretty contrary. But they talk a lot. And they come to solutions. They just figure, he just figures it out, and that's how he knows what he should and shouldn't do, is because they communicate. If he never would talk to this old guy, and the only thing the old man ever heard him say was to, go jump off a cliff, would there be any peace at all? Well, no, it would compound moment by moment until it was violence involved. That's how these things happen. People go in and shoot the whole place up. Well, there's been a backstory of a bunch of injustice that's been going on and a bunch of nobody pursuing peace at all. But communicating, so many times things can be resolved and reset to reality by real conversations between real people, face to face. Don't do it on here. Don't send text messages or Facebook posts or whatever for the whole... No. Go to someone. The Bible says if you have aught with your brother, go to him. Don't call him. Don't write him. Don't send a message through a friend. It says go to him. Go to him. And what happens when you go to someone? You have a conversation. You talk. There's words that get said. That's why communicating is one of the most important things in any relationship. And the lack of it, you see people starting to have marriage problems at work, problems with their friends, problems with their kids with their parents. I can promise you that the first thing that's been eliminated is they don't talk to each other. They don't communicate. Well, what happens when that exits the building? Imagination. fantasy, reactionary situations. And that's what you're dealing with. So, as much as lieth in you, we aren't all on the same stage in this. Okay? There's some people that seem like they can just take a licking and never even flinch. And then there's other people that are just like, look, it's like that old Tony back years ago went to where he got saved, went to work, and this guy walked right up to him and smacked him right in the face because he was trying to witness to him. And he come to church and said, how many times am I supposed to do that? And it's like, some guys there at church were trying to give him a little counsel. He said he figured it was just till he ran out of cheeks. This dude was about 6'7", 275, big old black fella, and he was stacked up. And I'll promise you, if they didn't want him to run out of cheeks. But at the same time, that's some people are not at the same level in this development as others are. About as much as lieth in you. It lies in some people more because of tribulation and victories that they've had in this. They know that if you do this the right way, there's good to come. There's peace comes from this. We inspire growth in each other in this. So somebody that don't lie as much in them as it does in you, when they watch you go through trials and endure it, and then they see the good results, the positive results in the offender, come out the other end, they say, you know what? I can do that too. I'm going to do that too. And the next time they feel the impulse to rear back and knock somebody's head, they're like, you know what? And they respond differently. It inspires the same behavior in other people when we do this. So what happens when you see somebody else's fuse just about to run out? You can run block for them. Go in and take a few licks for them, Don't encourage endurance and then promote justified revenge when you grow tired of forbearance. One of the fruits of the Spirit is forbearance. Am I right about that? I believe so. Peace, long-suffering. Well, that's what long-suffering is, isn't it? It's kind of the same thing as forbearance. Suffering long. Charity suffers long and is kind. So, live peaceably. I feel like it's a lot more attainable for all of us than what we think it is. But it has to start in here with us first. All right, live peaceably.